Welcome to our next purpose as readers. I can use context clues to determine the meaning of unknown words. This week we're going to look at multiple meaning words. So words that have more than one meaning. We will find other words in the sentence to help us figure out the correct meaning of a multiple meaning word, a word that might have more than one meaning. Here is a sentence with a word in bold. This word in bold has more than one meaning, so it's a multiple meaning word. The plane will sink if it lands in the water. So as a reader, it helps me to better understand the text if I understand how the author is using that word. So sink could either mean to go below the surface of water, or it could be something that you wash dishes in. So we're going to follow a 3-step strategy today. We're going to look inside of the word and think about what we already know. We're going to look outside of the word, and then we're going to plug in. So we're going to look inside, look outside, and then plug in. Well, let's figure out how to do that. The plane will sink. Well, when I look inside that word, I think of what I already know about sink, and I already said it, something you can wash dishes in or to go below the surface of the water. If I look outside, I see the words plane and land in water. Lands in the water. Okay, so that helps me to understand that this isn't something you wash dishes in. This is something that goes below the surface of the water, that kind of sink. So now I need to plug in a word that would make sense or a phrase. Go below the surface of the water. The plane will go below the surface of the water if it lands in the water. That makes sense. We just determined the meaning of this multiple meaning word. Let's practice what it looks like when we use our workbook page I can use context clues to determine the meaning of unknown words. Okay, so remember, we are going to look. My stylus isn't working very well. Let's try this again. I think it's working a little better. We are going to look inside of the word. We're going to look outside. And then we are going to plug in. Plug in means that we're going to plug in a word or a phrase that makes sense. Okay, so our directions are choose the best meaning that matches the context clues for the word in bold. Here's our word in bold. The bark of the tree breaks off easily when the tree dries out. So let's look inside. When I think of bark, I think of a noise a dog makes or the outer layer of a plant, a hard outer layer like of a tree. Okay, now I look outside and I see tree. So that means this multiple meaning word must have something to do with a tree. So it's not going to be something that a dog does. And now I'm going to plug in. The outermost layer of a tree breaks off easily when the tree dries out. That makes sense. Now I'm going to make my choice. When a dog communicates, the outermost layer of a tree. And there's our answer. We looked inside of the word and thought, what do we already know? We looked outside of the word to see what matches our thinking, and we plugged in. Let's read our next. The pilot was checking the plane to make sure everything was running correctly. Okay, again, we're going to look inside. Running. Well, when I think of the word running, I think of someone that moves at a fast pace, or I think of something that's working. So now I'm going to look outside of the word. The pilot was checking the plane. So if a pilot's checking the plane, that means he's not moving faster than a walk. He's not exercising. So he must be wondering if the plane's working correctly. So now I'm going to plug in my word. The pilot was checking the plane to make sure everything was working correctly. So what's the meaning of running? Working correctly. And our last choice. The pilot thinks the plane will fly. Again, I'm going to look inside of that word and think about what I know it already means, or think about what I already know. Fly could be an insect, or it could be something that someone does to lift up into the air. I'm going to look outside. The plane. Well, the plane isn't an insect, but a plane does go up in the air. So I'm going to plug in move through the air. The pilot thinks the plane will move through the air. Does that make sense? Yes. So we just determined the meaning of fly, move through the air. All right, it is your turn to determine the meaning of multiple meaning words on your Reading Wonders backpack.